I was at a cafe last week, just regular Tuesday afternoon. And at the table next to me, there's this kid, couldn't have been more than 17.
Okay.
He's on a video call, talking really loudly. Not about homework, not about a part-time job, but about how his latest meme coin investment had like 100x ed overnight.
Wow. Overnight.
Yeah, he laughed, right. Then swipes on his phone to show his friend this new luxury watch he'd just bought. And he says, it's not about creating value, man. It's about catching the wave.
Catching the wave. That phrase says a lot.
It really does. And just then our server came by, a woman, maybe late 40s, tired eyes, but, a patient smile.
Mm-hmm.
She refilled my water, put the teenager's, super overpriced oat milk latte down. He didn't even look up from his phone.
Didn't acknowledge her.
Not at all. She walks away, and I'm thinking, her whole month's earnings are probably less than what that watch on his wrist cost.
Yeah, that's a stark contrast.
And just watching them feet apart, it hit me, this quiet, kind of brutal question. We used to tell our kids, success is built on skill, on patience, contributing something real.
The traditional path, hard work pays off.
Exactly. But looking at them, I had to wonder, are we now living in an age where that advice isn't just outdated, but maybe it's a recipe for being left behind?
That's a heavy question.
It really is. And that scene it got me thinking. It really sparked today's deep dive. We're going to plunge right into what we're calling the easy money phenomenon.
That siren song, as you called it.
Yeah, that captivating, sometimes really intoxicating idea we hear so much about now. We want to explore its impact, and it's got so many facets on careers, skill development, our well-being, even how wealth gets distributed.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. It feels like it touches everything. It's a complex tapestry,
yeah.
And we're going to try and unravel it today.
Absolutely, and it's crucial because that cafe anecdote, it isn't just, a random observation. It really sets the stage for this much larger, more complex shift happening in society.
A shift we're all feeling, maybe.
I think so, whether we fully recognize it or not. We're living in what academics call a post-industrial society. Basically, our focus has shifted quite profoundly from making physical things, from manufacturing.
Right. Factories and assembly lines.
Exactly. To services, to information, to knowledge itself. And this shift is, it's grappling with these new, sometimes dizzying ways of generating wealth.
Like meme coins and watches appearing overnight.
Precisely. So the core question becomes, what does this mean for those traditional paths to success? The ones based on patience and skill building.
Yeah, the ones we were told about.
And what does it mean for young people trying to navigate this, find their footing in the workforce? And bigger picture, what are the implications for society as a whole?
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. So today, we'll try to untangle these threads, the socioeconomic, the psychological, the educational, even the ethical questions woven into this whole conversation. It's very contemporary, and I think very urgent. Hashtag the shifting sands of success and security.
So that scene back at the cafe, the kid, the coin, the watch, the server, it really does capture this tension, doesn't it? This clash in our modern world.
It really does.
On one side, you've got that ingrained idea. Success comes from hard work, skills you build over time, that steady climb up the ladder.
A long game. Patience and perseverance.
Exactly. But then there's this other narrative getting louder and louder, a perceived shortcut. Just catch the wave, ride some digital trend.
And suddenly you're not just okay, you're rich.
Right. It feels like these two ways of thinking about achievement, these two paradigms, are just colliding more and more. It creates real friction.
They absolutely are colliding. And this tension, it gets amplified massively within this thing we call a post-industrial society.
Okay, break that down a bit more. What does that really mean in practice?
Well, think about it historically. For decades, maybe centuries, economic power, success, it was tied to building tangible things, big factories making cars, machines, stuff you could touch.
Yeah, the Industrial Revolution, manufacturing belts.
Precisely. Wealth was generated on the factory floor through physical production, often supported by strong blue-collar jobs, unions. That was the backbone.
Okay, got it.
But now, in a post-industrial society, our economic engine has fundamentally shifted. It's less about physical stuff, more about ideas, information, services.
So think tech companies, consulting, finance, media.
Exactly. Wealth creation moves from the factory floor to, say, the data center, the design studio, the trading floor, even just an individual's laptop creating content. Knowledge itself becomes this incredibly valuable capital.
The ability to innovate with that knowledge.
That's key. This huge change reshapes everything. what skills get rewarded, how we even perceive value, and ultimately where the opportunities for wealth actually lie now. It's a massive shift. The ground is literally changing under our feet.
And this huge economic shift, it obviously has incredibly real, very personal impacts on families. It creates this feeling of insecurity, right? About paths that used to feel reliable.
Absolutely. A pervasive insecurity.
I mean, I've heard so many discussions, seen parents online saying things like they feel naive to bring kids into this world because life is just so expensive now and the economy feels so unpredictable.
That's heartbreaking to hear, but it reflects a real anxiety.
Yeah, one parent shared this story. Her daughter and girlfriend want to move out, be independent, cheapest apartment they find, $900 a month.
Which is a lot, especially starting out.
Right, and the daughter works 35 hours a week, goes to school full time, brings in maybe $1,500 a month. It's not just tight, it's...
Do the math.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Her son's starting college, working 30 hours, facing the same thing. And the parent worries explicitly that their chosen paths, writer, editor, journalist, might just lead to retail jobs, even with degrees.
Despite the investment in education.
Or even worse, that the supposedly safe paths, like computer science, even those are seeing massive job cuts now. It feels like that old promise, study hard, work hard, succeed, is just broken.
Yeah, that sense of a broken contract is palpable for many people.
Yeah.
And that individual struggle, that parent's very real pain, it really does mirror these larger systemic trends.
Like rising inequality.
Exactly. Particularly the accelerating rise of inequality we see across most advanced post-industrial societies. Research points to key drivers. Changes in family structure are a big one.
How so?
Well, specifically, the significant increase in single-mother households. Just statistically, these households are less likely to have multiple earners, which bumps up overall income inequality across the board.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then you layer on things like deindustrialization. That's not just factories closing, right?
Yeah.
It's entire communities losing their economic core, those stable middle-class jobs vanishing.
Yeah, the ripple effects are huge.
Absolutely.
Right.
Plus, persistent unemployment or even just lower levels of people working overall, it all feeds into this widening gap. Income, wealth, opportunity, it's becoming more polarized, it's systemic, and it makes those traditional paths feel way less secure for everyone.
So it's interesting then that amidst all these challenges, education spending often gets mentioned as something that can actually push back against inequality, depress it, as the research says.
Right, it comes up frequently.
But what does that really mean? Is it just about pouring more cash into schools? Or is it about how that money gets used? What does the research actually show? Is it making a difference?
That's a really crucial question. And yeah, the research is nuanced. It's not quite as simple as more money equals less inequality.
Okay.
While boosting education spending can definitely help, some big analyses show that just increasing the average years of education for everyone doesn't automatically reduce inequality on its own.
So just more diplomas isn't the answer?
Not necessarily. It suggests it's not just about the quantity of education, but really about the type of education, the quality, and maybe most importantly, how relevant it is to what the job market actually needs now.
Are we teaching the right skills for this post-industrial world?
That's the critical question. Are we adapting or sticking to old models? And beyond formal schooling, other things matter too. Policies that strategically boost union density, for instance. They've been shown to significantly reduce market income inequality.
Giving workers more bargaining power.
Exactly. Fairer wages, better benefits. And of course, politics plays a role. The political leaning of a government heavily shapes redistribution efforts. Generally, stronger left-wing governments tend to build more robust welfare states designed to cushion against these inequalities.
So it's a mix. Education strategy, labor policy, political will.
It's a dynamic mix, yeah. You need effective education, supportive labor policies, and the political commitment to create meaningful safety nets.
Which then leads to pretty stark differences in how different places are handling this, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned different welfare state models.
Absolutely. The patterns are quite distinct.
Like Anglo-American countries, the US, UK, et cetera, they've seen the biggest jump in inequality after taxes and government transfers kick in.
That's right. Significantly higher increases. About 3 times more than what you see in Nordic countries or continental European systems.
Wow, 3 times. That's not a small difference. That represents vastly different economic realities for people, depending on where they happen to live.
It's a huge divergence. And what's really fascinating here, maybe a bit unsettling, is something we could call the redistribution paradox.
Okay, intrigued. What's the paradox?
The paradox is this. While it's true that redistribution governments taking taxes and giving out transfers like benefits has increased across almost all these different systems.
Okay, so governments are doing more.
Yes, but here's the catch. Most of that increase isn't because they launched bold, new, progressive policies to tackle inequality head-on.
So why the increase then?
It's largely reactive. It's triggered mainly by an increase in need. So if unemployment goes up, more people need unemployment benefits. If there are more single-parent households needing support, spending goes up.
Ah, so it's like this system is just responding to more problems, not fundamentally changing the game.
Exactly. It's more like patching leaks than redesigning the boat. It's often a response to rising social challenges and economic hardship, rather than proactive innovation to really reshape how wealth works.
Which creates this environment where the old paths feel shaky.
Precisely. It makes traditional careers feel less secure, and that pushes people, especially younger generations, to look for alternatives. Or maybe they just stumble into these other, often more speculative, ways to make money. They're seeking a way out of a system that feels harder and harder to win in by playing the old rules. Hashtag tag the mental and educational minefield.
So we've talked about the economics, the policy debates, but beyond those numbers, the sheer pressure of this new reality, it takes a huge personal toll, right? It's not just spreadsheets, it's people's mental health.
Absolutely. The psychological impact is immense.
That parent we mentioned earlier, the one struggling, they were open about dealing with severe depression, feeling like a doomsdayer for even questioning having kids in this kind of world.
That's a heavy burden for a parent to carry.
Yeah, and they said something that really stuck with me, like, I feel so foolish for expecting things to continue to progress. Things are supposed to improve, not get exponentially harder. It's that quiet, brutal question again, a real disillusionment.
And that kind of anxiety, that almost existential dread. It's surprisingly common, actually, not just now, but historically in any period of big change or instability.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Historical perspective reminds us that, bad stuff is guaranteed, basically. Whether it was the Black Death centuries ago or polio epidemics more recently, humanity's faced huge challenges.
True, but does it feel different now?
That's the thing. The constant bombardment of information, especially from social media, can amplify everything. It magnifies the dread, the comparison. You see curated lives, people seemingly catching the wave effortlessly.
Makes your own struggles feel way bigger.
Exactly. It can feel uniquely overwhelming, almost insurmountable. But there's a counter-narrative too, right? A kind of resilient optimism that raising kids is fundamentally an act of faith in the future. It's about equipping them with resilience, critical thinking, good values, raising good people who can weather the storm, whatever it might be, just like generations before did.
So acknowledging the difficulty, but still holding on to hope.
It's that balance. Acknowledging the real challenges while maintaining a forward-looking stance.
Okay, so given these pressures, the economic insecurity, the psychological toll, how are we actually redefining success for young people, especially in education? That old scorecard, graduate on time, good grades.
Feels outdated, like you said, like a flip phone.
Exactly. So what's replacing it? It seems like institutions are trying to broaden the definition. Success now means a student achieving their own goals.
That's the push, yes. Moving away from just standardized metrics.
So that could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Getting a specific certificate for a job right now, transferring to a 4-year university, just expanding skills for personal growth.
Exactly. It's about recognizing diverse pathways, valuing personal transformation, focusing on long-term outcomes that actually empower the individual student.
Which sounds good, definitely more flexible, but it also puts a lot more responsibility on the student to figure out their own path, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And this whole redefinition of success connects directly to another critical piece, something often overlooked but fundamental to navigating all of this: financial literacy.
Right, which is more than just balancing a checkbook, like you said earlier.
Oh, way more. That's almost irrelevant now with apps. True financial literacy is understanding things like compound interest, how money grows over time.
Magic of compounding.
Yeah. And inflation, how your money loses value. And crucially, risk diversification, not putting all your financial eggs in one basket.
Basic, but really important concepts.
Fundamental. But the data is pretty shocking. Stanford research from 2021, less than 30% of Americans could answer basic financial literacy questions correctly.
Less than a third.
And even worse, adults under 35. Only 14% aced those basic questions.
Only 14%. That's incredibly low.
It is. And Professor Lusardi, who's a leader in this field, makes a key point. This isn't about raw intelligence. It's not that young people aren't smart.
So what is it then?
It often comes down to whether money was talked about at home. Was investing discussed? Saving? Debt? If those conversations didn't happen, even a brilliant student might be financially illiterate. It's about exposure and experience, not just brains.
Okay, so if such a tiny fraction of people, especially young adults, really grasp these financial basics, what's the actual cost? What does this knowledge gap cost us individually and as a society? It must be huge.
The costs are staggering, truly. On an individual level, people with low financial literacy are way less likely to benefit from investing. They miss out on that compounding growth we talked about.
Leaving money on the table, essentially.
A lot of money over time. They also really struggle to manage debt effectively. Maybe they don't refinance loans when rates drop, or they get caught by hidden fees trapped in high-interest cycles.
Yeah, predatory lending can hit hard there.
Absolutely. And they often miss out on tax benefits. Think about Roth IRAs, perfect for young people with low income because the money grows tax-free forever. But they're hugely underutilized by college students, the very people who'd benefit most long-term.
So this gap directly fuels inequality.
Massively. It's estimated to account for something like 30–40% of the wealth gap we see when people approach retirement. The financially literate simply accumulate far more over their lifetime.
Okay, that's the individual cost.
Yeah.
What of the bigger picture, the whole economy?
Macro level. The National Financial Educators Council estimated low financial literacy cost Americans around $243 billion just in 2024.
Billion, with a B.
Yep. And think bigger. If enough people make poor financial decisions like taking on those adjustable rate mortgages they didn't fully understand back in the mid-2000s.
Leading up to the 2008 crisis.
Exactly. The collective result can destabilize the entire economy. Widespread misunderstanding of complex financial products played a major role in that crisis. So yeah, it's not just a personal issue. It shapes society in profound, often very uneven ways.
And this whole struggle, finding skills that pay, achieving financial stability, it's not just happening here, is it? It's a global thing.
Absolutely. It's a global challenge.
If you look somewhere like Mongolia, for instance,
Yeah.
their youth unemployment is really high, right? Like over 17%.
Yes, 17.4%, a significant challenge. Many young people there spend a long time, frustratingly, looking for work. Often they end up in the informal economy, just doing whatever they can to get by.
Just piecing things together.
Exactly. But here's the paradox. In Mongolia, being better educated actually puts you at a higher risk of unemployment.
Wait, higher risk. How does that work?
It often comes down to a mismatch. What they learn in school doesn't quite line up with what the job market actually needs. Plus, employers often say graduates lack crucial soft skills.
Like teamwork, communication, problem solving.
Precisely. Skills that are vital everywhere now, but maybe not emphasized enough in their formal education.
Okay, that makes sense. A skills gap.
Exactly. And remember that small group, 4.6% of Mongolian youth, who cited interest in easy money rather than hard work as why they were unemployed.
Yeah, that connects right back to the kid in the cafe.
It really does. It reflects that same shift in perceived value, maybe a psychological response to feeling like the traditional hard work path isn't paying off anyway. It's universal.
And they tend to prefer government jobs there for stability.
Overwhelmingly. About 42.5% want public sector jobs. Very little interest, only 5% in the private sector or starting their own business.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
It highlights this deep desire for security over risk. And maybe it's because, as the sources suggest, entry-level wages often just aren't enough to cover basic living costs, like food, without help from parents.
So the economic reality pushes them towards stability, even if it means less potential upside.
It seems that way. They gravitate towards what feels reliable, even if it reinforces that move away from perceived hard work in the private sphere.
And with costs high and jobs uncertain everywhere, we're seeing this fascinating trend, almost a throwback. Intergenerational living making a comeback.
Yes, that's definitely happening.
Like in rural Newfoundland, you hear about families pooling money, building on family land, grandparents stepping up for childcare, not just now and then, but routinely.
It's an old survival strategy resurfacing.
Exactly. Driven by necessity, not just preference. It shows how, when times get tough, people often revert to what worked historically, relying on family, community, shared resources, leveraging that collective support. #navigating the digital Wild West. Which brings us right back to that teenager in the cafe and his whole declaration. It's not about creating value, man. It's about catching the wave.
Such a telling phrase.
That whole sentiment feels so plugged into the digital world we're all in now, doesn't it? These new paths to easy money, meme coins, NFTs going viral, they almost always start and spread online.
That's their breeding ground, absolutely. The digital frontier.
The new frontier of opportunity, but maybe also illusion.
That's the tension, exactly. And while our sources don't directly argue about, say, the ethical duties of platforms hosting meme coin trading.
Right, they don't point fingers directly.
No, but we can definitely see their broader impact. Social media, just by how it works, it floods us with information, often negative or curated, and it fuels constant comparison.
Keeping up with the digital Joneses?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And when young people constantly see others apparently catching the wave, flashing quick, maybe unearned wealth, it can seriously worsen feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Makes sense. The algorithms amplify the extremes.
They're designed for engagement. A wild success story that coin 100XA gets pushed everywhere. It starts to look normal, achievable, like the new way, instead of the massive statistical outlier it actually is.
So it creates this pressure to jump in, maybe recklessly?
It absolutely can. It creates that FOMO, driving people towards high-risk speculation because they think that's the realistic path now, not some kind of digital lottery ticket.
So, okay. If people are struggling with basic financial literacy, like we discussed, and these platforms are enabling, maybe even accidentally glorifying, really speculative stuff, what's the role of regulation in all this?
The million-dollar question again.
Is it enough to just educate people and cross our fingers? Or do we need stricter rules, more guardrails? It feels like a real philosophical split.
It absolutely is. This is where the core debate really lies, and it's complex, with strong arguments on both sides.
Okay, lay them out.
So financial literacy proponents like Professor Lusardi argue very strongly. Individual knowledge is key. Informed decisions are paramount. She uses that highway safety analogy.
Right, build the roads, set the rules, but drivers need a license.
Exactly. In that view, personal responsibility, making informed choices, that's critical for financial health. But then the critics push back.
What's their take?
They argue that focusing only on individual literacy kind of shifts the blame away from potentially unfair or even predatory systems.
Blaming the victim, in a way.
Some would frame it like that. They'd say strong regulations like actually outlawing super risky financial products, like maybe some of those subprime loans before 2008 might prevent huge crises more effectively than just hoping everyone makes perfect choices when faced with complex stuff and slick marketing.
So empower the individual versus regulate the system.
That's the tension. Should we focus on equipping individuals, or should we also rein in the systemic risks? It's probably not an either, realistically. You likely need both. But finding that right balance, that's the constant political and societal struggle.
And we see governments trying to figure this out everywhere. Mongolia, again, gives us a snapshot of these challenges, right? Trying to guide their economy, support young people.
Yes, it's a really relevant case study.
They've recognized they need to shift away from just relying on mining, digging stuff up.
Towards building on their people, their human resources, knowledge, skills.
So they've got these big plans, like a state policy on employment, a 2030 sustainable development vision. Sounds ambitious.
It is ambitious. And these policies, on paper, aim for the right things. Reducing poverty, boosting education, supporting youth employment, and entrepreneurship. They include concrete steps, skills training, career counseling, help for small businesses.
Sounds good. So what's the catch?
Well, a critical point often raised is implementation. While the goals are broad, they often lack a really explicit targeted focus specifically on youth employment. It's treated more like something that will just happen if the whole economy grows.
An assumed benefit, not a direct target.
Kind of,
Right.
rather than specific interventions designed just for young people's unique challenges. And then there are the practical hurdles, ongoing budget limitations, sometimes a lack of coordination between different government departments running these programs.
So the big vision is there, but making it happen on the ground is tough.
That's often the story, yes. Significant real-world hurdles remain.
Which brings us to that other perspective, the one some might call the tough love view on personal choice.
Right, that often comes up.
That argument that basically, young people just need to make good choices. That the problem is unrealistic expectations or trying to live beyond their means.
Yeah, the pull yourself up by your bootstraps argument, essentially.
Right. And the advice is practical, is maybe harsh. Save hard, live super frugally, stay home, cook cheap food, buy basic clothes. Choose the boring but well-paying career over the passion project if the money isn't there. delay gratification.
It's about prioritizing financial security above almost everything else, making pragmatic, sometimes difficult choices.
So this creates this real tension, doesn't it, in how we talk about this whole
A
thing?
huge tension. On one side, you've got this powerful call for individual responsibility, pragmatic choices, the idea that you can control your financial destiny through discipline and smart decisions in a tough world, self-reliance as the key.
Make the right choices.
But on the other side, you have these undeniable systemic issues we've talked about. The rising inequality, the limits of safety nets that only react to problems, an economy that maybe isn't generating enough truly good jobs for everyone, regardless of their choices.
The structure itself might be limiting.
Exactly. And some deeper critiques of post-industrialism itself, especially from academia, argue it can kind of create this corporate liberalism.
What does that mean?
It's the idea that modern capitalism, even trying to be liberal, can create false needs, that constant pressure to consume more, buy the next thing, chase status symbols like that watch.
The engine of consumerism.
Right. And it can also lead to subsidized waste, where inefficient or even damaging practices get propped up, harming the environment, maybe weakening community bonds. So it raises this really fundamental question. Are we actually progressing in a way that lifts everyone up, creates real sustainable value and well-being? Or are we just repackaging the same old problems, inequality, insecurity into new, maybe more complex, maybe more psychologically damaging forms, making real value creation feel less important than just, catching that quick wave? Hashtag outro.
Wow. We've definitely covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? It feels like we've gone from that initial image, the allure of easy money and shiny watches.
Right back to the cafe scene.
Yeah, all the way to the really deep anxieties parents feel trying to set their kids up for a world that feels so uncertain. We've talked about how success itself is being redefined in education.
Moving beyond just grades and diplomas.
And really dug into that complex dance, that tension between what individuals can control their choices, their literacy, and these bigger systemic forces shaping the opportunities available.
It's been a deep dive, for sure. And I think it shows really clearly how interconnected everything is. Our social structures, the economy, individual choices, they all weave together to create these paths to success. Or sometimes they inadvertently leave people behind.
Yeah, that old map, the traditional way things were supposed to work, it's just not enough anymore, is it?
It really isn't. And while new tools, new ways of thinking are definitely emerging, trying to adapt, it feels like the road ahead is still very much under construction. Lots of uncertainty, lots of challenges still to figure out.
It really does make you think, how can we best equip ourselves, and especially the next generation, not just to get by, to survive, but to actually thrive in a world where the rules seem to be changing faster than we can even learn them.
It's about resilience, adaptability.
Yeah, imparting both those practical skills like financial literacy, but also that deeper resilience needed to build a good, secure life, even when things feel unstable.
And, listening to all this, it ultimately leaves me with this powerful thought. Maybe building strong communities, fostering real connections between people. Maybe that's just as crucial right now as any financial strategy or big economic plan.
How so?
Well, when things feel uncertain, when resources seem scarce, historically, what's often provided the most enduring safety net? It's cooperation, mutual support, that sense of shared purpose within a community or family. Maybe those foundational human elements are the most reliable path forward after all.